So, Berto, do you have any sexual fantasies?
Oh, yes. So I would say that my daily life is consumed heavily by sexual fantasies. I don't know where I sit on the spectrum, but my brain is highly preoccupied with sexual thoughts.
Interesting. Well,
Yes.
what we are going to talk about today is recent research and past research regarding sexual fantasies of people in the United States. And there's some surprising findings. There's some interesting things that I was surprised by. So I recently saw some articles from a lot of people are writing about this guy or interviewing this guy called Justin Lemiller. He recently published a book called Tell Me What You Want, which is based on a survey that he conducted with almost 4,200 Americans from all 50 states, ranging from the age of 18 to 87. I think it's an online survey, anonymous survey. All sexual and gender identities, political, religious affiliations, relationship types, blah, blah, blah. So a wide variety of different kinds of people, 4,200 people, asking them to anonymously talk about their
fantasies.
Their fantasies, what they think about the frequency, and then trying to make some connections to gender or age, or, do older people fantasize differently? Do women fantasize differently? All that kind of stuff. So, do sexual fantasies change with age, Berto? What do you think?
Oh, well, they certainly do to some extent, because before a certain age, you either don't, especially if you haven't been exposed early to it, or they're not.
Well, just talk about 18 plus.
Oh, okay, sure, but still, same thing. Yes, because for one thing, you at different times of your life, you are more preoccupied with other aspects of the life you have to deal with.
Well, like what?
It's quite possible that as you actually start developing a family and you have lots of kids, your daily bandwidth for a lot of things goes down, because you're dealing with matters of getting the kids up in the morning or dressing.
And how does that affect your sexual fantasies?
Well, it's just your brain cannot multitask constantly. Like your brain is very.
Tell
limited.
me, what do old people fantasize differently than younger people?
Well, that might also be different. Like, for example, when you're younger, you might be more into things that are more standard. And as you get older, you might start getting into more, you might have fantasized about too many standard things. So perhaps you start varying your range of fantasies.
Good. That's essentially the finding, that for younger people, they tend to fantasize a little bit more. So we're talking about bell curves here. But they're, on average, younger people fantasize a little bit more about standard things like passion and romance, romantic, passionate themes. And for older people, they will have, on average, a little bit more higher incidence of fantasizing about threesomes and group sex.
Got it.
So the idea is that speculation is what you're saying. Is like when you're...
I've seen it all.
that wasn't the speculation that the author was putting forth, but I could see that. The other speculation is that which you were alluding to, which is that you're 55, you've been married for 30 years, you haven't had sex with anyone else for 30 years.
Oh, I see. Curiosity or something.
Right. And you've had essentially passion and romance throughout your life, but you've never had a threesome. and
so you start like, I wonder what that's like.
Right. What percentage of people in the United States report having sexual fantasies in their life, like ever?
90%.
Higher.
99%.
Somewhere between 97 and 98%. There's different.
I'm glad.
There's different studies, but it's interesting to think about the 2 or 3% who will say they've never had a sexual fantasy.
Right.
Right. There are asexual people who aren't interested in sex and don't think about sex. So
I had a roommate in college that claimed he never masturbated.
Yeah,
but we never believed them.
But it's possible. There's plenty of people who don't masturbate who are sexually interested, and there's people who are asexual. There's also people who are asexual. Asexual meaning that they have discovered over time that they're just not really interested in having sex with other people. So you have people who are asexual who don't fantasize, but you also have asexual people who do fantasize and asexual people who do fantasize and masturbate.
Right.
So,
So maybe the fantasy's fine, fantasy and masturbation's fine, but they don't want to really do it in real life or something.
Right, exactly. So even though younger people tended to not fantasize about threesomes and group sex as often as older people, everyone, regardless of age, one of the most common, so what's the most common fantasy among Americans?
Among all Americans.
Regardless of age, like everyone tends to have this.
Okay, well, I guess it'll be the threesome.
Yeah, it's a threesome. Almost everyone has a fantasy about a threesome. Do you want to talk about your own threesome?
I mean, that's funny though, because if you think about it, it's like, man, sure, I could imagine having a great time with this great actress or this one person, but it's not really living till you have two people,
So this isn't one of your themes?
No, I mean, certainly, I'm not saying I've never fantasized about threesomes. I'm just...
Didn't you have a cuckold fantasy that you talked about?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I definitely like the idea
because that's kind of like a threesome.
Sort of, but it's not like... The difference is this. I like the idea that someone I'm with is being intensely pleasured, right? That's the point, is like this person...
By someone else.
By someone else and or by me, but, definitely the idea that they're just so into their own pleasure and they're getting so much pleasure. That's the main aspect. It's not that, a threesome would be great. Like it's a little different pivot.
So there's a lot of motivations for the threesome fantasy.
But I mean, like my fantasies have always been a lot more selfish, and it's like, for a long time it was me going to a doctor visit, and it's a female doctor. It's wellness checkup, and I have to wear those tiny little robes they give you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never long enough, man. And then, because you know how they ask you to sit on the big flat bench, and that thing's like well elevated. And by the way, that's always very uncomfortable, like on my legs. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm wearing this little thing, and I'm like, God damn it, no matter what I do, I'm on display here, right? So, but in my fantasy, that's great, because like the doctor comes in and then she can't help but get distracted, and then she's like, so please, lift up your dress or this robe or something. And she does the little manual checkup, but then she's just like, here, lay down for a minute. We're going to try something unorthodox here, but it might help relieve some of the stress I sense. It might turn a little more into a massage or something like this. And then another common one used to be, I go to a massage, and it's not a happy ending massage place. It's like more of a normal massage place.
A legit massage.
Legit massage place.
Therapist.
Yeah. And then, like halfway through the session, they're like, you know what? I'm actually really tense too. Do you mind massaging me, or this kind of thing?
Okay.
It's a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
But I've actually looked online. Again, these aren't recent. This used to be, and especially like I remember a decade ago, the doctor fantasy was definitely very prevalent. But I used to do searches online, like a fantasy, massage fantasy or doctor visit fantasy.
Do you think that had to do with your hypochondriasis a little bit?
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Like, doctor, there's something wrong with me. So those were common ones. Other ones, locker room stuff, like we just got done with the workout and the game, and a woman just has to come into the locker room for some important reason, and we're just like, oh, why are you here? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I had to because I need to check on the water pressure or something like that.
So what's the theme to these three different...
It's the whole CFNM.
Right. You've talked about this with...
Clothed female, naked male.
Yeah.
CFNM.
Clothed female, naked male.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
It's a little bit of actually, so obviously there's a little bit of vulnerability there. I have to think there's probably a connection to when the babysitter abuse, I've talked about before, because in that, it's not that it was like that, but it's just I was vulnerable,
right? And
the female was in charge or like in power, so it could be something to that too.
Totally. As we talked about fetishes in other episodes, I'm quite convinced, and there's no way to know for sure, but there's some evidence, some loose evidence that points to we develop our sexual proclivities, things that turn us on, our fetishes, so to speak, when we are young, we could be quite young, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. We're sexual beings at that age.
Yeah.
We're very rudimentary sexual beings, but we are sexual beings. When we see something or experience something that causes our sexual neurology to kick into gear, whatever is the stimulus will be encoded as something that is very much connected to sexuality for us. So I always give the shoe example, because the high heel shoe fetish is weird because there's no way that you can make an argument that it's biological because high heel shoes are so strange.
It's such a recent invention.
Right, such a recent invention. In fact, it originally was a male shoe that they would use for riding a horse because it would, help with the stirrup. So it's not even really a female shoe, but somehow in, current Western society, it's, really associated with femininity and sexiness,
Right.
And so the idea goes is that you're 4 years old, you're down on the ground, you're playing with Legos, your mom's friends come over, they all sit on the couch, they're having some iced tea, and you are at calf level and shoe level, and you might even see up the woman's skirt, and you're just observing, and you don't know what you're feeling because you're 4, or maybe you're 7 or something, and you get this jolt of energy through your body, and you don't know what that is. You might even get an erection at that point if you're a man, and everything that you're taking in at that point, you're biologically open to having. Essentially, it's like when a goose sees a human at a critical period, you become that goose's mom, you know what I mean? And the goose will follow you around, right?
Imprinting.
It's an imprinting. Thanks for the word, yeah. Everything about that gets imprinted, so the skirt, the knees, the calf, the shoe, all of that gets imprinted, and then you sort of rinse and repeat that. And especially if you're 16, 25, and you're masturbating to a shoe, that further encodes that into it.
Right.
And and then boom, you see a shoe and you get a boner.
So we're really messing our kids up by showing them Square Bob Pants person or Barney the dinosaur or these kinds of things, right?
Well, I mean, to be serious, those aren't likely to provoke something, but they could. I wouldn't doubt that there is someone out there who has a SpongeBob fetish.
How do you say it? SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yeah.
SquareBob pants.
And I don't know if I've talked with you about this, but the solution to this, so in the past, up until 100 years ago, and for some people right now in the world, families live in small abodes.
Yurts.
Yeah. And you're very close to everyone else. There's very little barriers. In Seattle society, everyone has their own room, their own office, their own car, so the chance that you're going to come across some random example of someone else having sex is pretty slim.
Right.
But in history and in some parts of the world today, if you want to have sex, it's hard to get like a place that someone isn't going to accidentally happen upon you, including your own kids. So if you're having sex as you're 25 years old, you're a 25-year-old couple, you're having sex every night or every other night or something, and you live in a yurt, what's the chance that your kids aren't going to be aware of at least one out of
something's happening?
Yeah, one out of every 20 times.
Right.
Or your culture might even sort of say it's not a taboo to just say, Mommy and Daddy are going to have sex under the covers right now.
Right.
I want you to play on the floor and just ignore us. Just don't worry
Watch
about
SquarePants.
Yeah. And so what that does is that normal environment going back hundreds of thousands of years, even to chimps. I mean, what do chimps do? Do chimp babies...
They get hotels.
Yeah. Do chimp babies not see their parents having sex? I'm going to say they probably do, right? So what this does is it imprints into the young person what is happening, and it encodes that action as their fetish. So they become imprinted with extremely vanilla sex, essentially. And they grow up to be turned on by very similar things. They're not turned on by their parents, but they're turned on by a similar... But in today's society, because we don't expose kids,
Because we're so closed off about sex.
right? So the only opportunity for young people to be exposed is either through a shoe,
Right.
because they happen to catch a glimpse of a woman, or on the internet or something, or some other issue.
By the way, speaking of how horrible, because so much of history was one band invading the other and raping everyone. So think of how much imprinting happened like that
Sure,
for both boys and girls.
absolutely. What's the number 2 most common fantasy for Americans? What do you think?
Oh, anal.
Nope.
Okay, fantasy.
I'm not gonna-
public.
No.
In public.
No.
No?
I'm not gonna. You have to guess it.
Okay. Hold on. Food related.
Nope.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Doing it in front of no. The threesome was the most popular. With the same sex?
No.
No. Okay. With
And by the way, this survey, had
Oral.
had gay and lesbian. No.
no. Disguises, costumes.
Nope.
Very.
You mean role playing? Or
Role
role
playing.
play? No.
No. Okay. Oh my gosh. How? Shoes. Feet.
Nope.
Feet. No.
No.
I can't even. Okay. Extreme, like doing a sport, or like no, jumping out of a parachuting.
No.
No. Okay. All right. Backseat of a Volkswagen.
No. Think about people. I'm sure people have told you they've had this fantasy before.
Oh my
And you're
gosh.
just not thinking of it.
I mean, 4 people.
So think about what fantasies people have told
Yeah.
you about, and
Right.
what you haven't mentioned yet.
I don't know. Okay. What have I now? Am I gonna feel stupid?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Because I mentioned in public, and I mentioned
You mentioned anal and oral
and food. I thought food would be up there.
and public.
I don't. Man, I don't know.
Think about maybe your own fantasies. I don't know. Do you have? I don't know if you have this one.
You mean like the meringue pie one?
What?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Man, I just. Oh, is it about age? Maybe like
No.
an older? No.
No. But that's a
Okay.
common one. Older or younger.
Okay. Maybe doing it with someone else. Like, sorry, cheating. Like
No. But that's a common fantasy. So
getting caught.
good. You're in the zone of normal fantasies.
I'm
You've
back
got
to
a way.
it. While on a giraffe,
Yeah.
you're wearing a sombrero and
Yeah.
you get caught.
You're nowhere near it, but you're at least in the zone of like typical fantasies.
Okay. While watching porn.
No.
Being in a porn.
No. Think about porn categories.
Okay.
Maybe?
Oh. A mother, MILF. Mother, I like to.
Good, but no.
Okay. Interracial. Another race.
Good, but no.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh, large. Like large.
Nope. Good, but no.
Okay. Oh my God.
I'm
What is
really
a
gonna
porn
commit to this.
What is a porn category? Like redheads.
No, common categories.
Common category. I mean, what kind of category?
There's whole websites dedicated to this thing.
Large penis. No.
No,
Large breasts.
no.
S-
But you're good. I mean, this is for everyone of
Everyone.
every sexuality, every gender
okay.
are into this.
oh my
are into this
God.
thing. There's whole communities of people.
Whole communities.
I just gave you a hint.
Communities.
There's a community in Seattle.
Oh yeah, like nudity. Like no, but I already did this. Like
Nudity.
naked beaches.
Okay. No.
No, nudists. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
No.
Community of.
I'm pretty sure nudity has to do with every fantasy. I don't think that's a specific.
No, but in public, but in a public
okay,
beach.
okay.
But we already ruled that one out.
Yeah.
A community. BDSM.
Yes. People have been throwing their
Oh my
phones.
gosh, I'm so dumb. but that's the second?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's why I couldn't think of it, because I'm surprised it's number 2.
Yeah. I was surprised too. I'm surprised that threesomes are number 1.
I thought number 2 would be number 2.
Right. So almost everyone fantasizes about threesomes, and very close second is BDSM.
Can you imagine everyone was like, BDSM?
Yeah.
They're yelling at the...
Right. So things like being tied up or tying up, things like being spanked or spanking, things like being beaten or...
I guess that one's not in my... it doesn't bubble up in my head, it seems like.
Yeah. 89% of people fantasize about threesomes. 74% fantasize about orgies. 60% fantasize about inflicting pain. And 65% of people in the United States, men and women, heterosexual, gay, queer people, fantasize about receiving pain.
Okay, that inflicting pain is kind of scary.
Why?
That's a large percentage right there.
Why is that scary?
I mean, that sounds a little sadistic.
It is sadistic. That's the S in the BDSM.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like, that seems like it could grow out of control, you know?
Okay. Well, let's take a break and when we get back, let's talk about that. All right, we're back from the break. Before we talk about the dangerousness of sexual fantasies, let's go over some business here. Become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. That's the way we know you like the podcast the best. So, addressing the issue of dangerousness. Yeah, it's a common myth that your fantasies are indications of intent, right? For example, how many women, people who identify as women, fantasize about being raped while they're masturbating? What percentage do you think that is?
30.
Exactly. No, wait.
Really?
No, you're wrong.
Okay.
50.
50?
Have we talked about this?
We have, but I didn't remember it was that high.
Yeah, about 50% of women have had rape fantasies. Who do you think a percentage of women fantasize about being raped frequently? Like maybe, every fifth time they have sex or masturbate, they fantasize about being raped.
Jeez. Of the ones that do?
No, all women.
All women. Oh, I see. 50 do it. I'm going to go 30.
No, lower than that. 15%.
15%.
So, but that's a lot of people. About 1 in 8 women fantasize frequently about being raped.
Wow.
Does that mean they want to be raped in real life?
Well, I wonder how it correlates to the number of women that have been touched inappropriately when they were young.
Fine, but do you think they want to be raped in the future?
No.
Yeah. So fantasy has sometimes nothing to do with what someone wants in reality. You could fantasize about a threesome and know that threesomes are terrible. You could fantasize about wanting anal or wanting to do anal, but not actually want to do it.
No, I mean, I hear you.
Do you actually want your physician to sexually assault you?
Of course not.
Yeah.
But there's a difference though, right? The fantasies that involve someone else taking an action, first of all, those other people don't know about your fantasies.
Okay, so what percentage of men fantasize about raping other people?
Jeez, I don't know. Hopefully low. But
what? But
10%.
30%.
30%.
Yeah, it's hard to know because you have to get people to admit to it. But here's the thing: the vast majority of men do not rape people. So most people who fantasize about rape don't want to actually rape someone. Now, we need to designate that there's different kind of rape fantasies. The most common rape fantasy is one that is what they call, I can't remember the exact term, but it's called voluntary rape, which essentially, it's an oxymoron, or a contradiction, but essentially it's like, it's the classic like Harlequin novel scenario where you have this burly man who's been working in the forest and he comes upon this, this woman who has her breasts are heaving and she doesn't want to have sex with him, but she's interested, but she says no, and he rips her clothes off. She's like, no. And, so it's legitimate sexual assault, legally speaking. And she eventually gives in, but she hates him anyway. Like 50 Shades of, I don't know if 50 Shades of Grey is like this, but it's sort of like, I I want to be taken over. And so there's lots of different theories as to why. Just I'll get into this. The specific theory is that why do you think women would have that fantasy, that particular fantasy?
Well, so what I was alluding to before, since you were pointing out that a lot of kids get, they end up associating things that happened when they were in those young years with their sexuality. And we know that the statistics are actually sadly pretty high for the number of women that will be abused or in some way throughout their lives. Then it is quite possible they either witnessed or were directly experienced some form of, sexual inappropriateness all the way to abuse, which means that could have ingrained something in their heads where that's pleasurable in some way.
Right. So that's one theory. And to hear a full deep dive on this, there's a Patreon exclusive episode I did a couple months ago called Rape Fantasies, I believe. And if you want to hear that full deep dive, go to that. But and there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's something wrong with being sexually assaulted. The perpetrator, there's something wrong with him doing that. But there's nothing wrong with, as a result of that, you're now turned on by that, and you have fantasies. There's something problematic with putting yourself in danger and recreating that in real life by actually being re-abused because you're now being abused again. But there's nothing wrong with fantasizing about something. And
well, so this is the part where I'm struggling a little bit. So certainly, not only is there nothing wrong, but it is literally impossible for a normal human with today's technology to stop themselves thinking certain things randomly. Meaning you'll just be sitting there and all of a sudden your brain pops some thought into your head, and there's just no methodology where you can oh, you know what? I'm going to turn that switch off for next time. These things just happen in people's heads. So certainly I would never say, uh-oh, you just had a fantasy where you hurt another human being. You're evil and we got to, do something about you. But there is a flip side to this. So at one extreme, let's imagine a president of a powerful country like ours that constantly is fantasizing about starting a nuclear war. Like every night they're like, oh man, that would be so hot, so awesome. They're constantly fantasizing.
So, sexually, are you saying?
Well, I'm actually going to an extreme and saying they're literally planning it out. They're like, oh, I would love to do that.
Let's just keep it as sex. Let's not go to politics.
Well, but I'm okay. Well, even does it have to be sex? Because it could be someone planning to murder someone.
No, it has to be. Let's keep it. We're talking about sexual.
Fine.
Fantasy.
Someone's has a neighbor, and every night they're like, imagine raping that neighbor super violently every day. I'm saying man, that the way the human brain works is the more you repeat something, the more real it starts getting. And unless there are really good reasons to stop you, you might end up going down that path.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's an absolutely thing that will happen. Right. But we don't need to stigmatize all fantasy as being risky because we already do that.
Fair enough. It's when you give me the high percentage for how many people fantasize about hurting someone, I was like, whoa. Wow, that's a lot.
but that's in a sexual context. It's fantasy. Sure. It's especially BDSM is always consensual. It's inflicting pain. It's inflicting pain on someone else is the vast majority of people who have BDSM fantasies. It is consensual pain that they want to inflict on someone else. And I know it's scary because we don't. If everyone walked around with a sign above their head about their sickest sexual fantasy, you would realize, oh, everyone has quote unquote sick taboo fantasies in their head. And almost nobody does any of these things.
Right.
Okay. And so that's important. Now, having said that, there are a small subset of people, for example, men who fantasize about rape, who will actually go down that road if they continue to do that. Yeah. And certainly that can be a problem. But for the vast majority of people, 98% of people in the United States fantasize about various different things. And the two most, we have threesomes and we have BDSM. Both of these things are not socially sanctioned things, and yet how many of those people actually engage in those things? Not that many. Certainly there are people who do.
Right.
But Anyway. So one reason why women will fantasize about being raped is that they are recreating a past experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I've had women, I think that's what caused me to talk about it, was a woman emailed me and said, I think about this sort of thing and I'm really ashamed of it. And I went back and forth with her and I was just like, well, what's going on, And I determined that there was nothing wrong with her fantasizing about it. It's like, it's fine. If that's what you like to do, go for it. If you don't like to do it, yeah, sure, maybe try to put an end to it. But there's nothing wrong with you thinking about that. And, your brain likes to get off on certain things. It's fine. So other reasons are sexual blame avoidance, they call this, in terms of, women because we socialize women that they can't want sex because that's slutty and there's something wrong with those women, right? Mm-hmm. But women want sex just as much as men do. And so when they have that conflict, they want sex, but they can't want sex. Well, a solution to that in their mind is to be voluntarily raped, right? Are you with me?
Yep.
Number 2 is sexual desirability, which is, women like to fantasize that men want them so badly that they're losing control and they overcome the societal mores regarding raping someone to have sex with you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, I have to have you that badly. I can't wait for you to say yes. So women will fantasize for that reason. Also, just general masochism in terms of wanting to hurt yourself because of things you've been through and this kind of stuff. Also, male rape culture, patriarchy. This was a theory that was believed a long time ago, and to some extent still is that male rape culture embedded this notion in women's head that they need to be raped in order, or that it's okay for them to be raped, and therefore they fantasize about it. Also, there's some thought that women might have a biological predisposition to surrender to sex. There's other animals where there's examples where you will see the male will have to do simulated violence, essentially, and will be messages to the female that you're now under my control and I'm going to have sex with you. And to the eye, it can look like rape to humans. It's just like, wow, that lion is raping. And it can actually be even conceived as that. I don't know. But we might have sort of stirrings of that in our overall sexual, we have a wide variety of sexual, experiences or fantasies. And so this might be something of that nature emerging. I'm sure. Also, there's a neurological activation when we're afraid. That's why we go to horror movies, right?
Right.
It's endorphins. It's like arousal, right? Your heart, you're at a horror movie, your heart starts pounding. Yeah. You're being raped, your heart starts pounding. And that might actually facilitate overall arousal or just overall nervous excitement that can be connected to sexual excitement. But anyway, so, all right, some more stats here. 86% stated that acting out their fantasies were either met or exceeded their expectations. So this was an interesting finding that I was actually surprised by. So this researcher, Justin Lemiller, asked people, have you ever acted on your fantasies? And then did you like it or did you not like it?
Right.
I would have expected that a lot of people would have been like, wasn't as good. Because I hear from people all the time, it's like I've always wanted to have a threesome and I had a threesome and it was, right. But the respondents to this, 86% said, it was amazing it was even better than I thought it would be, which is interesting.
I wonder if it's also self-selective because, maybe the majority of people don't, like you said, don't go down the path of trying to do their fantasies. Yeah. So perhaps the ones that do take that extra step, more percentage of them are so predisposed to wanting it because that is what they want. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that case.
That's interesting. Right. So I could see, let's just take the threesome people. Of the people who fantasize about threesomes, there's probably a good percentage of people who absolutely know they don't want to be in a threesome and therefore don't engage in a threesome, and if they ever did by accident or otherwise or drunkenness, they'd discover, oh yeah, this is not what I want to do in real life.
Right.
Whereas people who actually seek it out are of the type of people who actually kind of know, I think I'm actually going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sort of thing I want to do.
And then they might also have to find people that want to do that too. Like if your fantasy is S&M, hopefully you're finding someone who's into that.
Yeah. Well, the definition of S&M is finding people who are into it.
Yeah.
And we should point out that BDSM is a sort of catch-all category. There are people who do what we would call BDSM who wouldn't call themselves BDSM. You know, there's a lot of people who engage in what I would call rough sex, you know, just spanking and slapping and pushing and choking and, you know, just lots of stuff like that. And 91% of people claimed that when they acted out their fantasy, it either had a neutral or positive impact on their relationships. So they're like, not only did I like it, but it also either didn't harm my relationship or even made my relationships even better.
Wow.
So what this author is saying is like people need to act on their fantasies more often, you know, because there's a myth out there. It's just like, well, if you act on these things, boy, you're going to ruin your relationship.
So I need to book a doctor's appointment is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. What about differences between men and women? Are there differences between fantasies for men and women?
Yeah, I can imagine there would be.
Like what?
I imagine more men would have group sex fantasies, for example.
Okay.
I imagine, what other categories? Like, well, you know, I imagine more men than women would have raping fantasies, like doing the raping.
Okay.
And vice versa, I imagine.
Yeah,
more
that one's
forth, yeah.
that one's true. The first one is not.
Oh, really?
Men and women have the same rates of threesome fantasies.
Oh, I was talking about, orgies. I meant orgies.
Same orgies fantasies.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've been propagandized.
Not really. I mean, sure, I have been, but that's not why I was saying it. I was saying it because, like, I actually was sort of thinking that the orgy thing is in fact because of a propaganda. Like, that is the thing that we have fallen prey to, right? Like,
If I might expand that. Men are taught you need to have a whole harem of women, and women aren't taught that. But no, threesomes, orgies, same. But the other one, but this study didn't look into it. The Justin LeMiller one didn't look into this, but I know from other studies that, more women. So more women fantasize about rape than men, but men men fantasize about being raped. By the way,
yeah, I imagine they do, right?
And women fantasize about raping.
Yeah.
But more women will fantasize about being raped, and more men will fantasize about raping. Another feminine. What's a stereotypical women fantasy that women must fantasize about blah blah blah?
The romance novel cover, right? The being swept off the feet by the guy with the shirt that's open on the horse.
Yeah, well, yeah, or emotional fulfillment. You know, like someone who loves me. You know, like one of the tropes of humor is like men watch porn and women's porn is like a man who will do the dishes. You know, have you ever seen that comedy trope?
Yes.
It's like, you know, women turn on porn and this guy.
Well, but there is something to the fact that Playgirl could not compete with Playboy.
What do you mean?
You just couldn't sell as anywhere near the same vicinity of female targeted porn as you could sell male targeted porn.
And what's your conclusion based on that?
Well, it doesn't matter if they were conditioned one way or the other. Clearly, by the time we're dealing with porn, it's very different between men and women.
But why?
I'm not saying, I'm just saying it is.
Right. Playgirl did not sell as much as all the other porn that was sold in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I guess what I'm getting at is that, like, you would think that I see. Is your point that, because women wanted the same kind of porn?
I'm not making a point. I'm asking you what your point is.
Well, my point is that there is something to the idea that women want a different kind of porn on average than the guy does.
Based on what are you basing that on?
I was pointing at how porn magazine sales skew male largely.
Yeah. Why do you think that happens?
Even if it's socialized, it happens.
That's true.
Yeah.
100%.
So even if it is socialized, it happens.
That's true.
So I know that like we can get into was it genetic or socialized, but by the time that we're dealing with porn as teenagers, it's happened. And so it's impossible to look and say, oh, male and females are the same.
Yeah. And there are some, shall we say, biological needs that we all have that are interwoven with socialization.
Yeah.
That will overwhelm the social mores. And one of the things that we see, so when we're looking at Playgirl, you have to walk into a 7-Eleven as a woman and buy a fucking Playgirl. Do you know what I mean? Whereas it's hard for men to do it, to walk into a 7-Eleven and buy a Playboy. It's even harder for a woman, one. Two, being caught with such a thing. Now, when you actually look at women and men today, because everyone has a phone with access to all the internet porn you want. Everyone has the most, the biggest library of porn that has ever existed in their pocket right now.
Right.
And when they actually look at that, yeah, you do see a greater amount of men, but you see a much larger percent of women engaging and looking at porn and masturbating than people think they would be.
Right.
And every year that goes by, you see the gap closing because of changes in socialization and changes in stigma. And so I would imagine that in, God knows sort of the gender politics as things move forward, but I would suspect that in 50 years, you'll see very close figures when it comes to men and women consuming pornography.
But even in frequency, like that's interesting, because I do.
I think that.
But even just biologically speaking, the men don't have to go through a cycle. They don't have to be pregnant.
Oh, okay.
They don't have to there are limitations.
Sure.
Biologically to how often women have to have sex.
Well,
or want to have sex.
Well. Pregnant women want to have sex.
Yeah, I know. I realize that.
And, but yeah, if you're having massive cramps, you're not going to be super interested in having sex. But all of those ideas are being, they might be slight factors, but when you look at, people overall, it doesn't, the differences aren't the differences that we see can be explained by socialization, and the differences that we see are disappearing. We used to have a massive difference between men who cheat versus women who cheat. There were, of the people who cheat, the vast majority were men. Well, as our society is changing, that gap is closing, and there's no reason to believe that it won't completely close. But we don't know, and we'll never know because we can never divorce socialization.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder though. Like socialization started somewhere, and at some point, some set of elders at the time, probably in their 40s, said, "Okay, look, we got to write down something here about how one of our gods or the god just." They didn't want women walking around with so much skin because you know what, guys here don't seem to be able to control it. So let's just make this a thing and teach everyone that women have to be covering themselves because this is. But so now it becomes a socialized thing.
But not in Africa.
Well,
yeah, there are people in Africa today. Not everyone, obviously, but like small groups of tribal people around the world who the women and the men don't cover much at all.
Yeah.
So you've already ruined your argument.
Well, but they have different dynamics, right? Like they're a lot more.
Anyway, we don't need to go on this road. So getting back to sexual fantasy, men and women, according to this study, very similar fantasies. Women are more likely than men to fantasize about what? Do you think?
Men are. Sorry, you're saying men are more likely to fantasize.
Women are more likely than men to fantasize about what?
Well, I think we already talked about I think being raped is probably still more common for women.
I don't know if this study actually looked at that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they did, but
Okay.
what else?
Maybe bondage.
Nope.
No. Okay.
I'm not going to give you this one either.
Okay.
Because this one actually should be intuitive to you, at least anecdotally.
Okay.
And it should be anecdotal and intuitive.
And
You've mentioned this fantasy already.
I've mentioned this fantasy.
Yeah.
So sex in public.
Nope. Think about differences between men and women.
Sure.
In terms of socialization.
Sure.
For example.
Okay. Well then, a romantic fantasy. No. Man, their wedding night.
Nope. These are all good guesses.
Okay. Having an affair.
Nope.
Having more women than men. So, food.
Nope. You're getting further away from socialization. This is one of the porn categories, by the way.
Okay.
This is probably, in my estimation, top 10 porn.
Oh, interracial.
Nope, but that's good. You're in the right sort of zone.
Woman.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So women are more likely than men to fantasize about same-sex
Same-sex
experiences, yeah. Speculation because of socialization for men to not think about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be a man, you are socialized that you should not be thinking about that.
You think that's the only reason we don't? Because I don't think so.
Could be. Another speculation that I remember thinking years ago, which I think, there's no way to know. I mean, you're skeptical of a speculation that no one can demonstrate. But the other speculation is that when we're born, we are in very close proximity to our mothers often.
Yeah.
And whether you're female or male or queer or whatever. And you will be imprinted on breasts and feminine bodies in a way that you aren't as much with men bodies. So, that could be another reason.
Yeah.
Men are more likely than women to fantasize about what? So this is actually interesting. It's sort of counterintuitive, but any guesses as to what the slight difference in terms of bell curves that men have?
Is it another common category? Big breasts.
No, this is something you haven't mentioned yet.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah. But it's something that you definitely know about. Yeah.
Okay. So the cuckold fetish.
No.
No. The.
I mean, just think logically what you would think a man would fantasize more. You won't get it, but I'm curious what you would think.
I would have said threesomes, or I would have said. But all right. Well, what logically a man likes? Beer and cars, sex in cars, sports sex,
Tom Brady sex. No, it's
so with a celebrity.
No, it's gender bending fantasies.
Gender bending.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Well, what?
Cross-dressing or having sex with a transgender or transsexual.
That's surprising.
Person. Yeah.
Okay.
Women were more likely to fantasize about BDSM and to place more emphasis on where they were having sex. So, like emphasize like, ooh, we were having sex in the park or at work or something. Men reported more taboo sexual fantasies, and placed more emphasis on who they were having sex with. Can you imagine why that would be true?
On who they were having sex with.
Like that girl at work or Scarlett Johansson. By the way, Scarlett Johansson is the most fantasized woman. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I could see. Here's my pseudo theory here. So, men would look at a specific person, celebrity or a real person, and they would start constructing this fantasy around that person. Whereas in the woman's case, they like the idea of the fantasy, but and you could say it's socialization or whatever, but they find a little shame around the specific person. So they generalize it a little bit. They have the fantasy. Maybe it's a faceless stranger. So it's a little bit like once you attach a name and a person to it, it's a little more shameful.
Interesting. Oh, okay. I could see that. I could also see in terms of the male side that men are socialized to conquer more women and therefore have some sort of ego gratification of, I got that woman, that particular woman or something.
My answer that you wouldn't maybe like from the non-socialization side is that I just think more guys like more women than women like more guys. So if you line up 10 people from work and you ask who likes who, more guys will like more women than the number of women will like guys from that same set.
Well, yeah, it could be. I don't know. Could be biological, could be not.
Like the average guy's bar is lower than the average girl's bar.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you need to talk to more women actually about their sexual fantasies. Because there are women who have, I would say, pretty low bars
For fantasies?
Yeah.
Okay, because they don't have a low bar in their dating life.
No, and men don't either.
Men do. They try. I mean, this is why we end up with incels, because they've lowered their bar as low as it'll get. And
but I mean, how many women do you think in college have gone like, oh, I can't believe I had sex with that guy last night?
Sure, that's temporary.
Okay, but that's what we're talking about.
Sure.
So I don't.
I just think that, again, I don't have the data, and I know that you probably disagree, but just from my own biased experience, I feel like an average guy will be like, oh, skirt, whoa, like the dog in Up. Whereas the average woman will be like,
dude, you need to talk to more women. Women will look at an ass or a bulge or another woman and have the exact same experience. I know women who, they will tell me they get wet when they see
an attractive
male or female, depending on their thing.
An attractive.
Yes.
I totally believe you. The difference is, what do they consider attractive? And I'm saying for a guy that threshold is way lower. That's what I'm saying. So therefore,
how do you define
more likely to find someone
a greater percentage of the female to a heterosexual male? Yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting question to ask. It's like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's more likely that a guy finds someone at work attractive because of the odds that I'm proposing, and it could be totally off, but I'm proposing those.
I would propose that another possibility is that if you asked a guy, like just, real quickly, what percentage of women at work would you legitimately have sex with if given a chance?
80%.
Right. He'd be like 80%. And then you actually went woman to woman. He'd be like, oh, no. No. Yeah. You're like, and you actually went person to person, it would be a much lower percentage.
That's potentially true. But I'm saying it would still be higher than if you did that same experiment with a woman.
Right. And, could be a lot of factors in that. Okay. Last thing here is personality. Extroverted people, what do you think they tended to fantasize about? So we're talking about
in the outdoors, in public, exhibitionism.
Nope. Well, it's, kind of group sex, non-monogamy. So they're more interested in meeting people and having sex with randos. What about agreeable people, nice people, empathetic people? What do you think they're
rape fantasies?
What do you think they're less interested in than the general population?
Oh, then the rape fantasies.
Right. So not rape specifically, but BDSM. Infidelity, and random sex. So agreeable people, they're not so into BDSM, and you're not into BDSM.
No.
And I would say you're fairly agreeable. So that stands.
That makes sense.
What about neurotic people? People who, they're stressed out a lot. They get nervous a lot. What do you think they're into?
BDSM.
Nope.
No?
So that's a common myth, right?
Yeah.
It's like, they're always
relax.
That's a super big myth. It's like, and you'll hear people talk about it.
I watched Tokyo Decadence.
Yeah, you hear people talk about this all the time. It's like, oh, the CEO wants to get whipped. And it's just like, no. So here's my theory about the CEO who likes to get whipped myth, is that a lot of people like to get whipped. It's just
some of them are CEOs.
Some of them happen to be CEOs, but guess what? CEOs can afford it.
Okay.
If you're poor, can you afford a dominatrix?
No.
So I think that's the issue, really. But anyway, neurotic people, what do you think they like to fantasize about?
Maybe it's the opposite. So if they're worried about stuff, it's the food fantasies.
Well, they tend to fantasize about calming things, like not very great. So So because they're generally fearful, they don't want
the massage fantasy.
Right. So but that would be something,
The yoga fantasy.
or romantic fantasies, things that are soothing. Okay. So the gestalt here is that personality plays a much larger role in your fantasy, and it's logical than gender ever would or age ever would. So if you really want to if you really want to make generalizations about patterns in fantasy, it's based on personality. And we also know that the big 5 personality traits don't follow gender lines very well. So, because you have extroverted women, you have extroverted men, blah, blah, blah. So what we really should be but because our society is so fucking gender obsessed, everything has to be categorized. It's like, well, men do this and women do that. It's like, there's other categories that are more meaningful when it comes to phenomena such as sexual fantasies. Anyway. So what's the final word on this, Berto?
I've learned a lot today. I'm actually really struggling mentally with the boundaries of the rape stuff, because you're right. It's not like you can control what happened to you. And then if you're now, healthily, that's part of your mental circus. That's one thing. I guess I worry a little bit about, obviously some people, some men a lot, fantasize about it and then go do it. And then that's the part that worries me. But I guess we can't demonize everyone's fantasies because of that.
Right. It's similar to people who, I don't know, fantasize about killing, I don't know, people.
Or just getting in fights. Let's a lot of people fantasize, oh man, I got so angry at that person. I wish I could have just punched their lights out.
Right. And they're really angry at their boss and they fantasize about punching them in the face every day. The percentage of people who actually act on those things are pretty slim. And there are some people who fantasize about it and will never do it. That there's no way they're ever going to punch anyone in the face, and they fantasize about it all the time. So I guess there's 3 categories. There's people who fantasize about problematic actual behaviors who are totally fine. They're never going to harm anyone. And then there's people in the middle who, if given enough activity, they could go in that direction. There's another category of people who actually are wanting to do it, and they're fantasizing about it to sort of curb their appetite, to some extent. But the vast majority of people who fantasize about these things never do them. I just want to point out one last thing that I found in this article that someone else wrote about Justin Lemiller. They said, they asked him, like, so what are some weird fantasies that people had? And he said, one of the most interesting fantasies I learned about through this survey was something that one female participant described as being a human cow. Specifically, she wanted to be tied up in the center of town where she would be force-fed hormones that would make her lactate constantly while people would come and milk her and have sex with her whenever they wanted.
Oh my God.
I only received one fantasy like this, but after writing the book, I learned that there's a whole porn genre devoted to women dressed as cows while they're tied up and hooked to milking machines.
What?
It seems that whenever I think I've heard or seen it all, I learn about a new fetish.
Wow.
Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.